I want to talk about the relationship between truth and what we perceive. I think that Unit 1 of the book that we're using for American history, The American Pageant, says a lot about how we as humans perceive what's happening around us and how we interpret that to be the truth and how we react to that. I think that the colonists saw that things were not the way they used to be and that something had to change if they wanted to have the life that they really wanted, if they wanted to have freedom, if they wanted to have liberty. And I think that it wasn't an intentional decision. It wasn't like they woke up one morning and said, let's be independent. We don't want to be part of Britain anymore. It was a gradual process and a gradual realization. And it was provoked by many different things that happened, including measures that Britain put into place, such as all the acts, like the Intolerable Act, the Sugar Act, the Quartering Act. But it wasn't something that the colonists just decided. It was something that happened because of what was going on in their minds and because of the fact that they realized that their truth wasn't the same anymore, because the way of life that people in Britain lived and that Britain was imposing on them just wasn't working for them anymore. Because they had a different perception of life and what was truth. You know, coming to America and making a life for themselves here in the frontier and in a whole different environment with different people, that would change the way that you see the world a lot. I think quite drastically. And for that reason alone, you wouldn't be able to live the same way that people do who have not gone through that kind of experience. History is really all about change. I think that that's part of the reason why we study history, because it teaches us things about how people change and how relationships change. And that's a really important thing to understand. So I've been talking a lot about truth. And as I was thinking about what I was going to talk about in this video, I knew that I wanted to talk about truth, but I realized that I didn't know actually what truth was. So I typed it into Google, as we always do because we love Google, and it said, truth, the quality or state of being true, which is not a good enough definition for me. So I actually went and found a real physical dictionary, and I used this one, Webster's Third New International Dictionary. Thought it would be pretty fancy and legit. It's like 5 pounds, really big and heavy. And it gave me a very satisfactory answer. The quality or state of being faithful, sincerity in character, action, or speech, genuineness in expressing feeling or belief, the body of things, events, and facts that make up the universe, or actual existence, the world of a particular person or in a particular manner. I think that one's really important because we all have different perceptions of the world. We all see the world in different ways, and when you're learning how to deal with other people and form lasting, meaningful relationships, it's very important to recognize that their truth may be different than yours, and that's totally valid. A judgment, proposition, statement, or idea that accords with fact or reality, or is logically or intuitively necessary, or follows by sound reasoning from established or necessary truths. Now this one I think really applies to history and what's happening with American independence, because it says something that accords with fact or reality, or is logically or intuitively necessary. And I think the truth of British provocation, especially in the Boston Massacre, the way that the colonists perceived it was that, you know, these British troops just started shooting them, and they were menacing, and they were provocative, and they were out to get the colonists, you know, and that was the truth that the colonists saw, and there's nothing wrong with that. One of the things that I think makes truth so hard to understand is that there's a lot of ambiguity surrounding truth, not only in history, the fact that we don't really know what happened a lot of the times, in literature, that everyone interprets a book in a different way. Even in science, in quantum mechanics, there's something called the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. And it means that, you can't know both the speed and the position, or the momentum and the position of a particle, especially an electron, at the same time. You can know one or the other, but as you become more certain of one, you become less certain of the other. So here we have this very clear statement that says you don't know what the truth is about something. The more you know that one thing is true, the less you know that the other thing is true. I'd like to finish with a quote that I found in the dictionary by William Faulkner. The old verities and truths of the heart, the old verities and truths of the heart, the old universal truths, lacking which any story is ephemeral and doomed. Love and honor and pity and pride and compassion and sacrifice. I think these are all universal truths of human existence. And these truths are all evident in history. They're also evident in literature. And this is why we study history and literature, because studying how people in the past and in fiction have reacted to these universal truths, pride, pity, compassion, sacrifice, gives us an example of how we might react to them, and helps us find what may be a truth for us. Everything is a language. Everything uses a certain structure to express something about the world. And I think that the more you understand about those different languages, the better you can understand what your own language is and what the language of others is. So I think that that is part of the reason why it's important to think about different truths and to relate truths across the disciplines.